I know I say this a lot, but this is truly one of the craziest poker sessions at my new card room, The Fort. My buddy and NFL star Dalton Kincaid flew all the way out from Buffalo just to see what Texas action was all about. We invite a few other creators, friends, and fellow owners to join in on this massive 5-10 match the stack game. The hands start out hot and only get more and more electric as the night moves on, especially when we find ourselves looking down at pocket aces and watch our fellow table mates pile money into the pot before we've even had a chance to bet. It doesn't end there though, as later on in the video we also find ourselves in a crazy spot where we flop bottom set and get it all in with two other players. You won't want to miss it, but before we get there we look down at ace queen of clubs from the low jack and raise it up to $30. On tilt, Nick puts in the call from the big blind and we flop ourselves two pair on an ace queen 9 board, all hearts. I put in a standard down bet on this flop and Nick puts in the call, bringing in the 4 of diamonds on the turn. More of the same, he checks it over to myself and I fire out small for $50, and he can't go anywhere with what seems like a 1 heart type of hand, maybe an ace or a king queen. He puts in the call and the 6 of clubs peels off on the river. He check calls a $75 bet.
No way.
Yahweh!
And we are gonna scoop in the first hand of the night, $375. Let's go. Dalton puts on the 25 button straddle. In this next one we see 2 limps over to Nick, who raises it up to 125 bones. I look down at ace queen of clubs and decide to come in for a 3-bet. I make it $400 to go. Nick's partner in crime, Eric, jams all in for 250 smackaroonies, and now Nick has a tough spot.
Hey, don't feel pressure to do anything, Nick. I mean, if you have a bad hand, just smuck it, man.
He ultimately does decide to fold, and we're going to run this one out once. Eric has us in bad shape with ace-king offsuit, and the board comes 7-7-5. Turn comes a 3 of clubs, and the river gives us a chop. 5s and 7s with an ace. How do we get so lucky? $835 getting chopped up. And poker gods don't like chop pots, so they immediately reward me with pocket aces and tell me to get the job done. There's a raise to $50 and a call. Of course, I'm going to come in large here for $200. Both Nick and my fellow owner Brandon put in the call. We're going 3 ways to the flop, which comes ace, 8, 7, bang, we flop top set. Being in position on both opponents is pretty nice. The reason I say that is because when they check it over to myself, I have the option of checking behind. Of course, there are some front door heart draws and some straight draws like 9, 10, and 5, 6, but we're going to play this one tricky and check behind, and hopefully one of them catches up. The 6 of clubs on the turn isn't the best card because obviously 9, 10 gets there. However, when Nick checks it over to Brandon, he fires out small here, and now we have a decision. Do I want to just call and allow him to get there with some heart and club flush draws? What about a hand like 8-9, 7-9, 7-5, 6-5? I think the best idea is to stuff it in my fellow owner's face here at the Fort.
Everything I have.
$1,700 going right into the middle. If he wants to call with a drawing or worse hand, he's gonna have to pay. That also does put a lot of pressure on Nick, who finds the fold, and Brandon goes into the tank. After thinking about it for a while, and I mean a while, we're paying time here at the Fort, Brandon, well, he knows that. He ultimately does decide to fold, which is not great news for us, but we're taking out a $2,600 pot, and he wants to know immediately what I have, and he's got to wait a week for this vlog to come out. In this next one, Dalton puts on the 25 button. Once again, we see 2 limpers. Nick makes it 125, and I decide to come in for a 3-bet to $400. David Alexander decides to 4-bet to $1,025.
Let's run some math.
That's going to clear the rest of the field. Dalton has the button straddle on, which means he has ultimate last action, so the action skips him, goes over to myself. I give David the patented choo-choo and rip my entire stack all in, covering him. Dalton finds the easy fold, and David snaps it off. After a little bit of table talk, it looks like we're going to keep David and the table in the dark. I don't want to let them know I have aces just yet. Flop comes 10-3 deuce. The turn puts 2 10s out there, which isn't great, but the river comes the 6 of clubs, and David turns over aces. How does he have that hand?
First hand, David?
And after letting the joke run on for a few seconds, I decided to slow roll the chop, turn over the aces, and we're going to chop up this $4,100 pot. Aces versus aces. How does he get so lucky? We then get into some shenanigans and Dalton ends up sucking out on the river and winning a bomb pot with quads. I guess he needs to ask for a trade from Buffalo because this dude loves Texas. We cash out from session number 1 and I end up booking a $1,115 profit in 5 hours, but we're not done yet as I come back a few days later and end up hanging my YouTube plaque on the wall. It's a pretty surreal moment. It represents all of you guys getting me to this point, and I'm stoked to have it up on the wall at the fort in Fort Worth, Texas. If you guys are a new viewer, comment down below how you found the channel and what you like about it, and if you're a returning viewer or a longtime OG, comment down below how long you've been watching for. If you guys thought that last session with Dalton was crazy, well, buckle your seatbelts. This is Drew's game. It's a 1-2, $500 max, match the stack, but he invited all of his college buddies out here to the fort, and the action gets crazy, and we even got Robert wearing this terrible nines hat. I don't know many people at this table, but the poker gods give me a warm welcome with pocket kings from the big blind, and I immediately come in for a 3-bet to 125. My buddy on my left, TJ, decides to put in the call for 125, and Robert does as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop here with pocket kings, so of course it comes ace high, ace queen 9. Why are pocket kings always an ace magnet? A player way better than myself once told me if you're in between 2 opponents on a flop, it's usually good to start with a check. That's what I do here, and the turn comes the jack of clubs, giving me the nut flush draw. Action checks over to TJ, who fires out for 135, and I can't go anywhere with my second pair and nut flush draw. I put in the 135, and the river card comes the 10 of hearts. Bang! We river the straight. I jam my entire stack in for 170, and we get snap called by king 10, so it looks like we got lucky on old TJ here. He turned the nut straight, and I end up rivering him for the chop. This next one's a beauty. TJ puts the $10 button straddle on, 2 calls over to myself. I decide to limp in with pocket 4s, and it doesn't take long before someone puts in the raise. Zach does, the $45, and Robert immediately puts in the call as well. We're gonna pick up 2 other callers, so of course I'm coming in with pocket 4s.
I need 2, baby, I need 2. I need 2, you're on the button, you got position. Good raise, dude.
And off to a flop we go, which comes jack, 10, 4, bang, we flop bottom set. Surprisingly, no one wants to put money in the middle, so I'll gladly do it when the action checks over to me. I fire out 4 green chips for $100, and now Zach springs the trap and raises it up to $500. Apparently Robert has a tough decision, but ultimately decides to call. Action folds back around to me, and I'm gonna choo-choo the rest of my chips into the middle, $475, and Pat beats me into the pot with a call.
Oh yeah, I'm good. You're live. I know I'm live. You're not so much.
After the cards are on their back, we're loving the spot that we find ourselves in here, a $1,700 pot, and we have bottom set. We gotta fade a bunch of cards, but the turn comes a 5 of clubs, giving Pat a bunch more outs. Luckily, a board pairing 10 of diamond peels off on the river, and Pat smiling, Zach not so much, $1,700 coming over my way. We're in the big blind with king 8 of hearts. Drew put the $10 button straddle on. There's 2 callers over to myself. I decided to Cinco de Mayo this one to $55, and we're gonna pick up 2 callers, Jeff Baker from the hijack and Drew on the button straddle. The flop comes pretty great for me, queen 10-10 with 2 hearts, and I think a bet is in order. No point in betting anything other than $55, and both players agree, put in the call, and we're off to a turn in a $340 pot. The turn gives me a pair, aka some showdown value, so I decide now to slow down and check. It's important not to bet here because what are we really trying to get to fold? I don't think a queen folds here, and a 10 has us smoked. We have a pair which has showdown value. We also could back into 2 pair with a king, or obviously that king high flush draw. Checking also allows opponents to jam all in with worse. Well, what's worse than a pair of 8s here? Well, ace high flush draws would be an example. Jeff Baker decides to rip all in for 113, and I'm hoping and praying he has something similar to that. Unfortunately, when Drew calls for 113, both players can't have the ace of hearts in their hand, so I know I'm behind one player at this point, but I have bottom pair and a good draw. I put in the call, and we're going to want to spike a heart or a king on the river. We love Patrick the Dealer, but not so much tonight. He puts out the 6 of spades. Surely I can't be good. Jeff Baker turns over ace queen offsuit, and he's going to take it down. Drew did show the queen of spades, so it looks like I was behind both opponents, but no worries. The poker gods give me queen 10 of clubs. They're going to make me battle it out this one here, and I raise it up to $45. TJ on my left puts in the call. Merrick jams for 181, and I'm going to isolate here and try to get heads up with Merrick. I don't want to go 3 ways to a flop here. I think if I just call the 181, there's no way in heck that TJ is folding. What does that mean? I cut out some green chips and toss them into the middle. It's a $390 raise. TJ does in fact fold, and we're going heads up with Merrick here in a pretty bad spot. Queen 10 versus ace king of spades. We outflop him though on a 10-8-7 board with 2 hearts. The turn comes the 8 of diamonds, wanting to fade an ace or a king on the river. And I shouldn't have said that because of course the river card comes the king of diamonds. Nice hand, Merrick.
Attaboy.
River rat.
Taking down a $455 pot. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to bring us into the last hand of the night. It's only fitting that the poker gods reward us with pocket aces, my favorite hand, other than pocket sevens, of course. I'm in the low jack and I see a bunch of limps in front of me, so of course, we're going to punish the limpers as we do here in Texas. I make it $20 to go. Zach snap raises me to $50, and Robert isn't going to waste any time, puts in the call. We see Jeff Baker over there across the table who calls as well, so of course I have to 4-bet it, and I go small here for 175. Just a side note, 4-bets don't need to be so large. I guess at this kind of a table where nobody's folding, we could go larger to 250 or 300, but that's neither here nor there. Zach jams it all in for 369 once it's back over to him, and Jeff Baker's in a tough spot. No, he's not. He folds his cards, and we're going heads up to a run out pocket nines versus aces. We're in a good spot. 6-3 deuce doesn't help Zach at all. The 5 of diamonds comes off on the turn. He's drawing to 2 outs at this point, and the king of spades is not one. That $846 pot is great news because it gives me ammunition to fire off in a 10-card flip. We end up pulling 6s full of 3s for a full house. We have around 4 players to fade here. They go down one by one, first with TJ, then Zach bricks off, then Robert, and it goes all the way across the table. The last opponent can't find the cards that they need. It was a $360 flip, so around a $2,000 pot shipped over my way. That's going to wrap up session number 2. We head over to the cage and end up booking a $1,689 profit in around 5 hours of play. Combine that with our $1,115 profit in session number 1, and we made out with $2,804 over 10 hours, which equates to around a $280 hourly. The action really is insane out here at the fort. If you guys like this video from my new card room, click on some other videos from the fort as well. Good luck on the felt, you guys. As always, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!